Good morning. Thank you for your participation in this STEP workshop about the research management for ESR that will be presented by Clara Sánchez-Rebato Valiente. So we thank you, Clara, for your participation and giving this topic. So I will make some presentation about Clara. She is a doctorate in Audiovisual Communications, Advertisement and Public Relations. She is currently working in international research called Branded Content Governance that involves University of Arts London and the University of Stirling, that aims to study how branded content is regulated across the globe using not only political or legal sources, but experience from experts in the field and related fields. So, Clara, you can begin your presentation. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Clara, and today we are going to talk about research management for early stage researchers and also self-care as a part of that kind of research management. So, first of all, as a form of introduction, I want to say that today what I'm going to share are my personal tips for both of these cases, but I am not a psychologist. So I'm going to give you my personal experience and my tips, but if at some point you feel you need more kind of support, please look for professionals on the field. So I'll do my best to share what worked for me when I was doing my PhD, and I hope it also helps you as well. But I want to leave that clear just in case someone needs an extra bit of help. Having said that, let's start. As a starting point, we have to take into account that when we look at how we do PhD compared to masters and the regular undergraduate degree and masters follow more or less the following kind of example. You go to classes, you go to lectures, and then you do readings and exams, an essay, and you have a final dissertation to present at the end. However, when we look at the PhD, the kind of way of working is slightly a bit different. This can be an exaggeration, but it's very common to start doing research, to start writing, and then going back and revising and presenting and doing articles. So it's all like a lot of work all over the place at the same time. So it's very easy to get anxious, to get confused, to have this feeling that you are a little bit behind. So in order to start, or at least have a starting point clear, what I found myself when I was doing the PhD is that the PhD is a little bit like when you start a university after doing high school studies, where you change completely how you normally study before. So this is kind of same feeling of sorts. So you have to adapt to this new form of studying. We have to look at PhD as a form of creating new academic content. You are not doing an essay using other people's kind of knowledge. You are trying to produce your own knowledge using what other people said before and then your new approach. This is hard and this can be very, very scary. So added to that, PhD can be a solitary process. You are working long hours on your own and your own specific topic. So what I would suggest as a form of adapting to this kind of new reality of yours is actually talk with your supervisors, with your PhD colleagues, if you have more on people around you that are going through the same experience, even though if they are not in the same area of expertise. Talk with postdocs for those who have already finish the process. So they will give you kind of more complete overview of the whole PhD process. The idea of talking to all these people is that they give you a starting point for how to organize yourself, how to look, kind of how to present or plan your daily kind of routine, at least at the beginning, because normally when you start this, you are very, very lost. So having a starting point is brilliant, and then you can change it as you go, because sometimes your kind of routine can change. In terms of what to look for, I also I highly recommend you to have the list of requirements for your PhD kind of studies very, very present. And I'm talking about physically present. Put it on your wall, so you know when you have to present, for example, in a conference, when you have to attend to a I don't know, workshop such as this, for example, and you can cross it. You physically cross it out of the list. So if you are in doubt, you will have it physically there, and you will know when you have to do that, in which year, and when you have to have it completed, in which year as well. Also, keep an eye on authors or publications about your topic or related topics that you can use for your thesis in the end on your PhD research. This is important not only because you can use authors that you like or you feel that they're relevant, but because you can start networking with them if the situation presents, but also if you look into publications in journals and so on. And for example, like in my case, in the third year, it was, by the third year, you can do it sooner, it was compulsory for Spanish students to write an article. If I know a publication that has like open calls, and I like it and is relevant to my field, I can see what they are publishing before I actually write my article, and then prepare for when my article has to be done, knowing that this journal is the perfect place for me, and it's going to be like it's going to allow me to cross another kind of requirement out of my list. Again, how we do all of this and which kind of productivity tips should I follow? What I already mentioned, have your PhD requirement at somewhere in your office, somewhere you can normally see it, very, very present. I used to have it on my calendar. On the side of the calendar, I had the list, and I literally crossed everything I did, even if it was not the compulsory thing, it was kind of optative. I did it as well, so I knew for sure that I already completed that. Having said that, keep a diary on you at all times for the regular work. Why I say this? PhD is a very long process, and it's very common to think that you have enough time and think that you can actually work your daily routines without having to have a list. But I found myself that having a diary keeps me at bay, because I know what I have to do for certain times and certain days. And if I don't complete it all, which is also normal, we will talk about it later, at least I know what are the remaining things and when I can plan again to finish that. And it's very important to have a diary, because even if you're not able to complete all the tasks you planned, you have a check of the things you completed, for example. And that's what I wanted to talk now. We have to add tasks accordingly, in the sense of the day has 24 hours, but you cannot work 24 hours. You have to eat, you have to rest, your brain cannot be 24/7 like as a machine working. So the idea is, if I know that, for example, methodology is really hard for me, and I need to do something about methodology, save a very like long period of time for that, because you already know that that's an issue, that's a matter that it takes longer in your daily work to manage. So it's okay to plan accordingly. Maybe Some days you only have 3 tasks, but they are very heavy tasks. And some days you have, I don't know, 6 tasks because they are quick and you know you are going to be able to do them in the day. However, you have to know your working rhythms, and this is hard. But the working rhythms, when I talk about working rhythms, I'm looking at which times of the day I'm more productive in terms of doing stuff, and which time of the day my brain doesn't want to, being at that time. For example, I know for a fact that I normally use mornings as a reading time, as a research time, and afternoons as a writing time. So if I do it the other way around, my brain is going to say, no, I need to receive information. I'm not ready to produce it. So the idea is that by knowing your working rhythm, you will know when to place the previous task I mentioned in a way that is easy for you, natural for you, and also less daunting, if we want to say like that. And also, breaks are very important, and I didn't take them seriously, and it caused a lot of kind of a strain on my working days. So take breaks. Your brain is doing an enormous amount of work only with the research, only with the reading, because this is something that you may know, but you are looking into it very, very deeply. So, for example, and we will talk about it later, what I used was the Pomodoro technique, in the sense of I work an hour, but then I rest for 10 minutes, even if it's just for having a walk or having a coffee. So you are like, you have to see your brain as a kind of muscles, and you cannot go to the gym and work like for an hour straight ahead. You need to do pauses, you need to do breaks. So breaks are very, very important. Now, we were talking before that methodology was a very scary part of my PhD process, and that's why I want to talk about the scary hours. I learned about the scary hours very, very late in my research process, and I'm very sad about that, because scary hours are times that you save for doing those things that you are very, very scared of doing. And you do it like every day. For example, if I would have saved an hour every day to do research on methodology, or to look for a specific methodology that I needed, I would have seen methodology as a chapter, less daunting when I actually had to write it and research it, than having to dedicate a whole month out of it. So the idea of saving 1 hour is that it's a kind of easy time frame that you can use it to approach something that is very scary. For example, I was a tiny bit scared about having to do this talk. I've done it before, but it's been a while. So I had to save time in my kind of week to be able to do this presentation in a more natural way. So that's how I kind of overcome my insecurity about coming here to talk, for example. However, we have to take into account that sometimes you're going to leave unsolved tasks. And that's okay. As I said before, the day has 24 hours. Sometimes we do have a lot of kind of energy and productivity, and everything is easier, and you can actually finish it. But if at some point there are unsolved tasks, we have to learn how to, and it's very hard, but how to not kind of punish ourselves for not completing the list. That's why I said before that when we do like daily list in the diary, we need to plan accordingly, knowing how we work, our working rhythms, in the sense of trying to prevent doing a very long list that in the end we're not going to complete. And if you are like me, you're going to be saying to yourself, like, you should have done X, Y, Z alongside all the work that you already did. So the idea is to know, like, maybe we have unsolved tasks. How we approach them later in the following days. And that's how we jump into the Eisenhower matrix. Is a trick I have on prioritizing stuff. Not always is, in my case, I use it most of the time, but I know that for some people it doesn't work, but I'm going to use it anyway. If the matter that we have, if the task that we have is urgent and important, like I know that I have to do this talk, this is something that I know that is happening now. You do it right now. You leave 1 hour of your time to do this talk. That's happening. If it's important but it's not urgent, you have to decide. You have to put it in somewhere in your calendar and say like, okay, this is important, but it's not for today. We can leave it for a week. In a week's time, I have to have this article revised, or in 2 weeks' time, I have to have this article written. So that way you're telling your brain, okay, I know this is important. I know that this has to be done, but it's not going to be done today. We are going to plan when to start working on it. We are going to put it there, and I promise we are going to do it, but not now. So that way your brain relaxes in a sense that, okay, I got it covered. It's done, but not right now. If it's urgent but it's not important, we delegate. And you can tell me, but Clara is a PhD. I work on my own. I cannot delegate in someone else. And you are right. Instead of delegating, what I would say if is not important but urgent, I would say these are the tasks where you can do it when your brain is kind of having a low period, those days where you feel like you must be doing your PhD research, but for some reason, imagine that you haven't slept well, and you feel like it's not working today, is not kind of a productive day. For those times, you can do these kind of tasks that are urgent but not important. In that sense, you may not have done like big things, but you have done, I don't know, checking emails, revise stuff that you wanted to send to your tutor, small tasks that you have to do, but don't require a lot of energy, a lot of concentration on your part. If it's not important and it's not urgent, delegate. And that's how the Eisenhower matrix knows it, but I wouldn't say delete it, because in the end you have to do all the stuff. But if, for example, we are writing the PhD research and I start thinking about the cover of the final version of my research, probably I'm writing it right now. So probably I will have to say to my brain, okay, that's a nice kind of idea. We have to look into that. But today, or right now, in this month, in these 2 months, is not the case. We don't eliminate it. We know we have to do it, but you have to say to your brain, cool, thank you for reminding that, but it's not the time for that right now. So you will have to postpone it up until the point of that thinking. So this matrix works in a way of allowing you to kind of categorize all the tasks you have to do depending on how urgent and important they are. So at least it worked for me, and I hope at least helps you to sort out what to do compared with the kind of overwhelming task that when you do a PhD you have to face. Now, okay, we have already planned more or less how we are going to kind of tackle all the activities that we have to do. But how do I keep myself focused? What I normally use are 2 apps that are completely free and are available for either Mac or Windows, that are Be Focused and Self-Control. Be Focused is the Pomodoro Technique app I used to use when I was doing my PhD process. As you can see from the image, you can see that you can specify the kind of working times and how long that working period will last, and then follow, for example, here are 25 minutes, but after those 25 minutes, the program by default will leave you 10 minutes to rest, and it will beep like, as for example, if it's time to work, it will beep in your ear to tell you, hey, it's time for work. And then when it's time to rest, instead of being red, it will be green, and it will tell you it's time for resting time. But I use it a lot when I needed to do like heavy research in terms of reading, because I used to have like really long reading periods, and I saw that I didn't, or I lose focus the majority of the time if I basically sit down and read. So what I used to do was like having 30 minutes slots of time, and then go for a walk, or at least if you are not able to move, for example, if you're in the library, try to look around you, rest your eyes a little bit. And then the self-control image here is a program that allows you to block all the kind of websites that you have tendency to look for when you are bored, when you are tired. So in my case, for example, my research was about YouTube, so I couldn't block YouTube because I needed to use it, but I used to go into Twitter a lot. And there were times in which I realized about this, and I basically told the program that I needed to block Twitter for a time period. You can select how much time do you want the website blocked. So every time that, because I was tired, I wrote Twitter on my web browser. Basically, it appeared as if I didn't have internet at all. I knew I had internet because I was watching YouTube for my research, but these websites were blocked for the timing that I already set. Now, I suffer a lot of stress, guilt, and everything when I was talking and reading about this matter. Academia tends to make you feel like that. So what happened to me was that I had recurring thoughts about me not finalizing things I need to finalize, me not being able to, tackle all the list of activities that I placed in my diary. So all that at the back of my head were like, it was like having a constant voice reminding me all the things that I did wrong or I didn't complete it. And it was very, very tiring and very, very kind of psychologically consuming. So I learned about how these thoughts, how these voices were recurring thoughts, and I follow a few tricks. So, for example, if I feel very angry because I'm very behind on writing an article, let's say, the first thing I did was facing that emotion. I'm angry because I'm late to finishing this article. Why are you angry? I'm angry because I don't feel like I have enough bibliography, for example. So I'm very behind on the research. So sit down and face the emotion in the sense of, you are not angry because you are late. You are angry because you feel like you haven't done enough. The idea of not having done enough is very recurrent, at least it was for me. So what I did was like, okay, let's admit that maybe I don't have everything I wanted, but I need to start writing this article. And we will see if there later, when this is more or less written, if I need more research, if I need to look for specific people, specific articles. That's a way of sitting down and say, okay, brain, let's analyze what is going on. If this doesn't work, I tend to talk to me kind of, well, in the sense, okay, we have to finish this. I know you're scared, but we're going to do it. Like, I always think about it as if you were talking with your best friend. You wouldn't say to your best friend, you are lazy, you're not doing the work. You have to talk to you as you would talk to your best friend. Like, okay, I know you are angry, I know you are scared, but we are going to try and tackle this one step at a time. Try to talk to you in a more comprehensive way. Or if it doesn't stop you from thinking of this, talk to someone else, friends, family, your supervisor, your colleagues. Say, okay, I'm blocked. I have to write this, and it's not going well, and I don't know what else to do. Maybe they do have an idea. I'm talking about, for example, in the colleague area, maybe I'm blocked because I don't know which authors to refer to, or I have too many authors and I don't know where to start or which one to mention first. Imagine. So maybe a colleague will tell you, like, you can use this theory of this person. So it's a way of, if you open up and say, I'm having an issue here, your network, either professional or personal, may give you a hand. And if they don't know about it, like if they are not expert on the field, at least you can sit down and talk with your friends and say, this article is giving me nightmares and this is going on. Maybe they can actually give you a space of their time to basically vent, and you can actually see from another point of view. They can tell you, why don't you tackle this, or I think you're doing it fine. So maybe it's just sharing the act that will allow your brain to reduce the pressure a bit. Sometimes the issue with the matters of your brain that are giving you kind of a bad time is because you have already done a lot of hours and your brain is tired, so you tend to look at things very negative. So maybe changing room for a while, or write down the thoughts and the feelings that are bothering you is a way of sitting down and let it go out of your system. Or if you cannot do it, or if it's bothering you a lot, you can actually sit down and say, I cannot think about this now. Think about it in 3 hours. So that way you're telling your brain, like, I know this is important, and you're telling me all over the place that is important, but we cannot focus on this right now. I give you a time for that, but you need me to, you have to give me time to actually work, and then we will see this. Or go for a walk, go outside, let the sun actually reach your skin. Most of the time when we go for a walk, you are focusing the attention on something else, and when you go back, you will have a fresh kind of mind to look into what you were having trouble before. Other than that, another tip that I have is, do an activity you love for a specific time. That worked for me a lot. Like, maybe I was stuck in this article, but I had been working on it for 2 hours and it's not working. I'm getting upset about it. So what I used to do was, like, I love reading for fun. So I was like, I'm going to read for 30 minutes. I need something else, something different from what I'm doing. So I went to a different location in my flat and I did reading for fun. Maybe the issue was still there, but I managed to place it in the back of my head and allow me to rest for that time period. When I came back to reread the article and work on the article, at least my brain was in a less kind of stressed space, and at least I could be critical about it, having kind of fresh eyes. This linked to perfectionism can be very tricky. I'm a perfectionist. So in order to be able to finish what I had to finish during the PhD, I've tried to follow all these, more or less, all these tricks. Not all the time, it will not be easy all the time, but at least it worked for me. We already mentioned the to-do list. The good thing about the to-do list is that allows your brain to say, okay, I did not do everything I wanted, I did not do the 8th task. I did, but I managed to do 3, and they were 3 very important. So it's a way to tell your brain, I know you feel like I'm not doing enough, but I did big things today. Maybe not the majority of them, but I actually did big things today, and I have it written. So it's a way of double checking your brain and say, calm down, because I planned this and I managed to complete few of the things that were very important. And remember that the day before they were not done. So that's a way of kind of tricking your brain into not feeling guilty about it. In the same way, we have to look at the PhD. If you're like me, you will have to, or you will try to do the 100% all the time. And the majority of the time, 70% is the correct kind of way of approaching it, because you are the expert of this matter that you are researching on. If you feel like you have not done enough, that is not complete, people will not notice, because they will be talking to you or listening to you talk. And the majority of the time, if you feel like you have something missing, they will not notice that, because they are more focused on what you are saying, what you are presenting, than the things that you have not actually covered completely. Also, and it's very hard, try not to compare yourself with others. I know that all the PhD processes are different, but we have to keep in mind that all the researchers and research are different. So our idea is to focus on our own path. It's great to have colleagues and share with them your research and your advances, and when you have difficulties, because they can help you. But the way they work and the research is completely different from the way you work. So comparing yourself, it will only make your brain having this idea of, I knew I shouldn't have done this or that. You have to try and focus on your own path. And that's, I know it's very hard, it's easier to say than done, but it's very important for you to have it clear. As I said before, the day has 24 hours, and we cannot include everything. We cannot do everything. You are doing it the best you can, and the important goal here is to finish the PhD. If you want to continue researching things that you feel they were important but you couldn't include, you can do it later. You can do it after you finish the PhD and say, for example, I did it in my PhD, which was about booktube, the people who talk about books on YouTube. I said I wanted to talk with young people in high school about this topic, but I couldn't do it because several reasons. However, I have not forgotten. I didn't include it on my thesis, but it's something I want to do if I have another opportunity to research this topic again. So the important goal here is to finish. And I know that the majority of the time when we talk about all of this, you may feel a sense of failure. However, failure is key in academia, because even if you fail on something, or if you feel like you have failed in saying, in my case, for example, I did not do talks with young adults and I should have, or teenagers, and I should have to complete my research, it's okay, because maybe I haven't done it, but I'm leaving the door open for another researcher to say, Clara Sánchez-Rebato Valiente did all of this, and I'm going to take her work as a starting point, but I'm going to be focusing on how teenagers respond to this community, for example. You are allowing, with what you consider a failure, you are allowing someone else to start their academic career. Therefore, failure is key in academia because it allows you to open another door for you or for someone else. I know it's really hard to deal with failure, but I love this approach because it doesn't kind of punish myself for that. And I use it a lot of the time when I feel like I'm down because I did not complete something, or I did not do what originally thought. Now, this is the second part of the presentation. I am trying really hard to keep it like in time, but let me know how we are going just in case. This part of the presentation is more focused on stress and self-care. Mental health and taking care of our mental health is vital for the PhD because, as I said at the beginning, it's a really long process and it's very common to start when we start, we are very motivated, everything is new and we love it and we want to do everything, but it's very common to have, with all the tasks and all the things we have to do and all the conferences we have to attend, it's very common to feel like by the passing of the time, we are more stressed and not having that initial energy. However, it's very important to detect when our kind of level of stress is going out of hand and take care of our mental health. Why? Because as you can see here, mental health allows you to develop a fulfilling life, not only yourself as an individual, but also as a community. And what we want to kind of avoid is burnout. This feeling of feeling always exhausted, of having this kind of detachment from your work. And I know it's very, very hard because sometimes we spend too many hours doing research, but we have to try and have this balance between your academic life and your personal life, because as I said before, we are not machine. We don't work 24 hours a day, the 7 days of the week. So the idea is to try and avoid burnout, not only because we want to finish the PhD, which is the main theme here, but because in the end, we don't want our mental state or mental health to be resented from this process. We joined this because we wanted to give, or we wanted to explore academically a topic, and we wanted to produce something new. But we need to enjoy the process. It's not only about finishing chapters and talks and conferences. We have to enjoy the whole process. And it's true that sometimes there will be like periods of time where we are a little bit low, and periods of the work where it will be more kind of, we can struggle more with certain periods, but we have to take care of our mental health. That's why I wanted to talk about self-care in the sense of the ability of individuals or communities to promote health, cope with illness and disability, and do it without the support of a health worker. Self-care can be is very kind of vast. It can be physical, emotional, creative, financial, social, or spiritual. And the idea of self-care is that when we are doing the PhD, it's very common to focus on the working time, but we have to make sure that we also have resting time. And I'm not talking only about holidays. I'm talking about, and this is very, very hard, but I'm talking about being able to say, like, I'm going to be working, for example, from 9 to 5, and then after 5, I'm going to see my friends, I'm going to go to the gym if I like that, I'm going to go for a walk. We have to be able to allow our brain, which is the muscle we are exercising, as I said before, to have resting time in order to keep kind of more healthy relationship with the work, because otherwise your brain is going to be constantly thinking and thinking about it, and you will have, because, and I'm talking from experience here, you may have the feeling that is this repeating day all over again. So the important thing is to have kind of a specific working time, and when we do not have or are in that working time, choose from, for example, these activities, what we want to do as a getaway, as a okay, I finished my work. What do I want to do as a form of winding down, relaxing? Maybe it's going to the gym, maybe it's, I don't know, doing hobbies. I love reading, so maybe I do reading. But if I did reading all morning, maybe I don't feel like reading that time. Maybe what I need is to actually go out for a walk and then listen to some music, like change, allowing yourself to have the downtime where you can actually do something that fulfills you, not because we are doing productive stuff, we're related, but we have to do stuff that makes us happy. Maybe is talking with your best friend and say, let's go for a meal, or if for example, also you can say, maybe I cannot do all these kind of activities I want to do, but you can mix. You can say, why don't we go for a meal, my friends and I? You are doing social self-care with kind of more of a physical self-care, in the sense that you are eating well, you are kind of enjoying two things that you love. Also, when I talk about balancing research with self-care, it's because sometimes we think that we select a specific self-care routine, but sometimes it does not work. For example, I started doing swimming lessons and swimming, kind of go for a swim, but there were times in which it was a very important self-care part of my routine because it allowed me to think about something completely different. But at some points, that routine was more of a chore. If it becomes a chore, you are able to, you have the right to say, like, this self-care routine is not working anymore, let's change it. In the same way that you can tell me, Clara, I do have a presentation tomorrow, I don't feel prepared. And of course, if I finish my kind of working time and I still don't feel prepared and I feel like I'm anxious about it, I cannot do self-care right now because I will feel like I'm constantly thinking about that. So, okay, you can say, instead of doing the routine you normally do, you can stretch that working time a little bit and say, okay, let's revise it. Let's do more practice a little bit, not the whole day, but the idea of practice a bit in a sense of, I need a presentation and I need to be calm and I need to practice in order to do that. Okay, let's do that. Let's kind of stretch the working time in that sense. But once you have practiced it and feel in more control, that's when you stop. That's when you say, like, oh, okay, I overdid my timing today, but I feel more calm. And now is when your brain can relax. So all of these activities can be kind of changed, and they can vary. And also, and with this, I think I'm going to end. When we talk about self-care, we don't talk about spending money on stuff. It can be free stuff. Maybe you love journaling and it's something you always wanted to do. So journaling can be your escape. You can use a notebook that you have on your place and start doing this kind of manual creative stuff. It doesn't have to be monetary consuming. It can be, I don't know, as I said before, going for a walk, meeting a friend. All these activities can be also more focused. The important thing is that you focus on what allows you to rest and also allows you to, in the following day, come to your work with a more refreshed attitude. As I said before, this is better, or at least it sounds easier said than done. But the important thing is that we finish the PhD and we have to enjoy the process. And these are tips, or the tips I share with you today are tips that I try to use, and I hope that allow you the capacity to go or to reach the end of your PhD and say, like, this was a great experience, but I did not lose myself in the process. Thank you very much.
you.